Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you're all well on this stupendous Saturday. That's it, it's Saturday, baby. You're looking amazing, by the way. I hope you have an amazing weekend. We're just going to have a quick little chat based on yesterday. You know what I mean? We spoke yesterday about the car crash that was the last Idaho 4 Heron. And we then looked a little bit in video 2 into the way that the media had kind of handled that. That's gone even worse, by the way, but I'm not going to look into that right now, because this is just in response to comments, the multiple comments that we have, because it gives you an insight into how people both received and understood what happened in that hearing. And it's quite interesting, because this is what I say. I say that you've got the community on YouTube as a bit like the litmus test for the community of Latah County. And that is that it gives you an indication of how people receive information, how they interpret that information, and then what that leads to. And specifically what we're going to talk about in this video is Ann Taylor. Now, it's important to understand that Ann Taylor has one job, and that is to defend her client to the best of her ability. And Bryan Kohberger, regardless of whether you think that he is innocent, guilty, or you're unsure, the one thing that is a fact is that Bryan Kohberger is, he should get, he is entitled, it is a constitutional right for him to get representation to the best of a person's ability. That's it. That's all it is. You know, even if he's guilty, he's entitled to that. His constitutional right says that he is able to go through a system that is non-biased. It functions in a way that everybody is confident in. So when a decision is made at the end of it, people know that that's the right decision, and they can sleep in their beds at night soundly, like a kitten sleeping. Kittens sleep a lot. Well, you know what I mean. But what we saw the other day, in my opinion, is not indicative of a system that you could trust someone's life with, to instill confidence into, and that concerns me. And I'll tell you for why. In my opinion, Ann Taylor is not being able to do her job to the best of her ability. Because I say, would Ann Taylor be acting the same, doing the same, showing the same mannerisms if she was in a different courtroom? Somewhere else, say. Say if she, for some reason, went to a court in Florida. Would her mannerisms be the same? Because I found Ann Taylor to be a little bit like a sparkler. You know what a sparkler is? One of them things you have on bonfire night, firework night, when you light it and it sparkles. Real bright, and they're going like that and writing their name in with it. And then it, poof, it's gone out. And you're left a bit like, oh, is that it? And that's, in my opinion, what Ann Taylor's like. She burns real bright. She starts an argument. She says a valid point, but then it disappears like a fart in the wind. And that, to me, is not, again, indicative of someone who is doing the best job they can for their client. Now, she had raised a complaint against Judge John Judge about due process. Said a decision was made without me being informed or me having the chance to say anything. And that got mixed reviews, because people were like, well, she broke the non-dissemination order, she did this, she did that. No, she didn't. She absolutely 100% did not do anything of the sort with respect of breaking the non-dissemination order, going against it. She didn't give Edelman any information from the trial, from the case itself. She gave him an instruction to work for her and do what he does. And he obtained information from the public domain. Now, they can do whatever they want with that information. because it's from the public domain. They haven't got it from anywhere that stipulates that they are not allowed to do it. People might not like the questions that are asked. They may not. And do you know who won't like it? The people who won't like it are the people who believe Bryan Kohberger is guilty. They won't like it because this guy's functionality, Edelman's functionality, his business's functionality is to determine whether there is bias in the community. And the way that he establishes that is to speak to a very small proportion of the public, is to look at what media stories are out on the case, and media stories that could be interpreted wrong, could be damaging to someone's ability to remain unbiased because they've been exposed and had exposure to specific stories. So he goes out and he speaks to people about these things, and makes a decision at the end of it. How are you able to determine whether people have been exposed to damaging media content without asking them if they've been exposed to the damaging media content? Now, you can't just go up to someone and say, have you been exposed to damaging media content regarding the Idaho 4 case? What answer do you think you're going to get there? What answer do you think that someone's going to say? Have you heard about a car in the Idaho 4 case? What? Do you know what I mean? But when you specifically turn around and say, have you heard that Bryan Kohberger has the same car that was seen on the night of the murders, for instance? That, again, and this is what people fail to understand and fail to grasp. When they read things like the PCA, which, to be honest, the vast majority of what these questions were made up of was the PCA. And let's not forget that the PCA is public, is in the public domain. The PCA is not bound over by the non-dissemination order. So unless Ann Taylor said other stuff that wasn't said in that hearing, there was other questions asked that was in breach of the non-dissemination order. But bearing in mind that Ann Taylor specifically said in that hearing, and remember, would she really risk being debarred by flat out lying in a public court hearing in front of the judge and everyone? I don't see it. I don't see it. But so many people feel consistently that that's what she's doing. And again, these are the guilters, the people who want Bryan Kohberger to be guilty of this crime. And again, he could be guilty of this crime. But the point being is you already want him to be guilty of this crime. You are not open-minded enough to think, it doesn't matter what I want. The guy is entitled to fair and due process. You just have a mindset of, he's guilty, I don't really care about anything else, I just want the guy to burn. And it doesn't work like that. We see it in comments every day. Oh, I know he did it. I just feel it. I have this feeling. What fucking feeling? You've never met the guy. You've never spoken to the guy. You've never sat face to face and had a conversation. And the evidence that you've been placed before you is specifically the evidence that is an interpretation of the case by investigating officers who themselves could have been affected by a massive amount of bias. The car, for instance, the white Hyundai Elantra, we do not know whether that car was Bryan Kohberger's car. We don't know that. And actually there is evidence that is indicative of the fact that this was not his car. The years were wrong, but again, that's by the by, because it could be him. But as much as there is evidence to say it's his, there is evidence to say that it may not be. The phone pings, need I go on? The questions asked was that Bryan Kohberger's phones would indicate that he was stalking these people. And let's not forget that in amongst all this as well is that Bill Thompson had turned around and said that there was statements or them questions that were untrue. untrue. And he said that. Now, bearing in mind that I would say that the vast majority of what we used was their actual evidence to be used against Bryan Kohberger, he sits there and turns around out of his own mouth and says that there are untruths that could be damaging to Anne's client, Bryan Kohberger. So which one is that then? Which is the untruth? I can bet my bollocks to a barn dancer that's likely stalking, that there is proof or evidence to say that Bryan Kohberger was stalking these victims on social media. We'll stick a pin in that and we'll see if later on that is the untruth. Or is it the White Hyundai Elantra? Who knows? Is it anything to do with the DNA? I don't think so. I think that there was definitely DNA found on a sheath. It's just how the sheath got there. But anyway, that's by the by. I digress. Point being, Anne Taylor, in my opinion, is ineffective counsel. She had not done anything wrong. Now, people may or may not like what she did and how she did it, but she utilised a business that has been operating for decades in this manner and has done this thing before. That's what she did. She did not, to my knowledge and anyone else's knowledge, because it hasn't been proven to say that she had, it hasn't been shown, and she has literally stated she didn't, and I can't see her lying in the court. She did not break the non-dissemination order. So in other words, the court was halted strategically by the prosecution to stop Anne Taylor proving that there was bias in Latah County in order to get a change of venue. And Bill Thompson said, I don't care about you doing a survey, and I'm paraphrasing, I just want you to do a survey that contains questions that I approve and that I know is going to give vague answers that ultimately will not be able to prove bias in the community. And if you do that, then I'm happy. I'm happy you do however many you want. Crack on. But this survey is wrong. Why is it wrong? I'll tell you why it's wrong. Because it proves that there is bias in Latah County and there needs to be a change of venue. And people don't want that. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. But let me know down below what you think. Is Anne Taylor capable of doing her job? Or is she the sparkler that burns brightly at the beginning and then fails to further her argument, to solidify and act on it? She starts to call out but stops. What happened with respect of this survey and the prosecution in what they did and how Judge John Judge backed up the prosecution is indicative of that court being controlled by the prosecution and Taylor's working being affected by the prosecution, being controlled in a way by the prosecution, and Judge John Judge allowing it to happen. And not only allowing it to happen, but supporting it. Again, it's just my opinion. Let me know yours down below. And I'll catch you all in the next one.